I could be a very rich person if I got paid for every time I ask this question and not get an answer. You see, normally if I'm in a setting of a workshop or a speaking gig and I'm facilitating it or speaking up front with leaders, I always ask this question: can anyone in the room tell me in a few words, what is the strategy of this organization? Then I sit back and I watch. What's quite interesting is I watch the body language happening here, and I end up not getting an answer. So why not? Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another Ask Dennis Freestyle episode. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, my experiences, or insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, what an interesting question. So, how to get people to buy into the strategy is the question for the episode title this week. So, why is this so important? My question to you as a listener: if you are working for an organization today, do you know what the strategy of that organization is? Can you tell me in a few words? As I said in my intro just before, I am blown away by the number of people who do not know the strategy of the organization. They know it exists, but they can't tell me. You see, I asked this question to a lot of my audiences, and what actually happens is that body language that I talked about in the introduction is that they turn to their left and they turn to their right and they look around the room and they're sort of puzzled. They know it exists, but they can't actually tell me what it is. Then they sort of shrug their shoulders. Then you'll get this brave soul within the room who will try to give it a go, but doesn't actually get it. Doesn't actually give me the right answer. And you know, they sort of know that it does exist, but being able to articulate it, it's hard. And you know what? For a lot of them, it's pushed down their throats. A CEO or a managing director or a senior leader of the organization will get up once a year in front of their whole organization. And if they're a global, then what they do is they do a virtual town hall as well, and they get everyone ready to go. And that CEO or managing director gets up and they show beautiful slides. Oh, fantastic. But what happens is that they say, ta-da, here is our strategy. And everyone claps, yeah, this is awesome. And they go, great, now go out there and make it happen. And then all you hear is crickets. There's silence. There's nothing. People go, huh? Because you know what? They don't understand what it means for them. So here it is. This whole strategy is being pushed down their throat, but they have no idea what it means. Well, in some organizations, what they do is they put the strategy into words, of course, and into large posters. And of course, because it's really important, they laminate it. You know, everything that's important should be laminated. And then they put that whole poster near the tea and coffee area in the kitchen, hoping that people will actually read it. Now, hoping and doing are two different things, but people don't read it. They know it's there, they know it exists, but they don't read it. But if they do read it, they still don't understand what it means for them. So how do we get people to buy into the strategy? And why is it so important? Well, first of all, get people to buy into it by owning it. In other words, don't push it down their throats. In fact, get the team, staff, employees involved in helping create the strategy. And if you do that, then it becomes their idea. Now, you may not be able to have all the employees doing it, right? So you may need a group of them. But then you get them to start talking to others and their peers and their colleagues about it. And then they start to own it because it comes from them. So the first thing is get people to buy into it by getting them to own it, which is really important. Number two, I would say that you make sure that you communicate it in a way that resonates with people. They can see on a daily basis on what they're doing and what relevancy it has to them and how it relates to the bigger picture or the strategy. You see, the thing is that most people are doing their day-to-day job, and what they do is they're not sure how that rolls up into the strategy, not sure how it is part of the bigger picture. I remember many years ago, we brought the organization together. This is in New Zealand at the time. And what we did is that we created a video, and in that video was different parts of the business, but we showed it in a way of a story and the life of a New Zealander. And we showed the New Zealander going and buying something in the shop and right through to the banking, right through to getting money and so forth. And it touched the different kind of industries or organizations, customers that we were servicing. Then what could happen is that the people sitting in the audience, they could understand that from a computer programming perspective or a data analyst or for anyone else working in the organization, business analysts and so forth, what they were doing on a daily basis, how it was related to their customer, but also how it was relating to New Zealanders. In other words, our customer's customer. And so you could see the whole downflow effect and how it was actually affecting everybody. And you could see the bigger picture. Another way that I did it was as I was taking over teams and we were creating software as an example for call centers. I get my team to go and sit with the customer and put another headset on and listen to the phone call discussion actually happening while at the same time watching them using our programs, our software to work with the customer, which was really quite cool. So in other words, they got to see it actually being deployed or delivered or rolled out in a way that they could see and understand how it played for them in the bigger picture. The third area I would say here is getting your leadership team to understand the strategy first, and then also having the ability to articulate it to others. You see, if leaders are talking about it all the time, people are going to remember it. But the reason leaders aren't talking about it is because they don't know or understand it, so they're not able to articulate it. And so if we can get leaders to understand it more, and they understand the bigger picture and how it all works, but also how it's relevant for them and their teams, so then what you want to happen is in team meetings or if a project or initiative has been done, they are relating it back to the strategy and the bigger picture. And if you can do that, then what actually happens here, it starts to become part of their fabric or becomes part of their DNA. And if that whole strategy is woven into what they do on a daily basis, hey, it becomes very, very strong and also part of their everyday life. Now, whether you talk about strategy, or what about this other area? What about purpose, vision, and mission of an organization? For a lot of organizations, if I ask the same question like I did for strategy, the employees can't tell me, the leadership can't tell me the purpose, the vision, and the mission of an organization sometimes. So whether it's the strategy, purpose, vision, or mission, I'm going to say to you, you might want to think about trying to keep it simple, not complicated. And if you make it simple and people understand it, then you're on a winning recipe for success. Too many organizations do make it complicated. Keep it simple, make it relatable, visit it on a regular basis, and bring it to life for you and also your organization. Because if you can do that and people understand the strategy, hey, imagine where you and the organization may go in the future. Listeners, that's an interesting question about the strategy. So sit back and think about it. How can you actually make this a lot easier for people to understand? Hey, thanks for joining us. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.